Tonight on the Human Parasite Support Network.
Well, I was just going to continue on with the mites, and the mites are what are the vectors of the other diseases that they're giving you.
This is a man-made, bioengineered. It's been released into the air, and you've all ingested it, one way or the other. It's come down on you from the air. You've eaten it, you've drank it, it's gotten into your DNA. It mimics parasites, it mimics insects, it uses your DNA, it grows within your body. It does not want to leave your body. When it leaves your body, it dies. It cannot live without you. You can keep killing it, but it will still be in your DNA.
So like you said, you got mites in your brain, you got your mites in your sinuses, and you got mites in your eye. I disagree with that. I agree with the fact that the mites gave you that disease, and that you either have Lyme disease or you have nematode, or you have a combination of two. But a Lyme disease and a nematode can come from mites just like they come from ticks. I proved that in articles that I posted on your group. I showed pictures of the mites with nematodes on their back, and articles where people got Lyme disease and never got bit by a tick that live in the city. So how can you have an area? Because they probably got it from the rats. Mites also carry protozoas. They also carry fungus or fungi.
Okay, so what is a protozoa?
A protozoa is like Giardia. It's basically a microscopic jellyfish. It's in a class all of its own. They don't know what it is. But they call it a bacteria. Like Microsporidia is a good example. Microsporidia, they actually diagnosed it as a bacteria. Then they thought it was a protozoa. It's actually a fungus. And Microsporidia is very common, like Candida or like, Giardia. Some people actually say they're in a class of microscopic jellyfish that infect fish called flagellates. Flagellates and protozoa are very common. They're not the same species, but they're pretty darn close. Very old organisms. And believe it or not, that Fenbendazole targets a lot of these items, or mebendazole.
Fenbendazole targets them more than mebendazole?
Well, I live in the USA, so you can't get mebendazole over the counter. When I first got sick, my doctor tried to get it for me, and it was impossible to get because they took it off the market, and they're using it for cancer research, and they're actually marketing it for cancer now. $864 for a 500-milligram pill from the pharmacy through a prescription from your doctor. Yeah. That's a fact.
$7 if you buy it in another country.
Well, that's true. So why do we pay $864 here? Because our government is not allowed. Our government is not allowed to negotiate prices with pharmaceutical companies. Ex-Congress that law is allowed. That's a true law. Medicare and Medicaid cannot negotiate prices of pharmaceuticals, and they set the prices. And once those prices are set, those prices are nationwide. No, well, that's just a fact. Why can you get the same medicine overseas for $7 and it's $864 in the USA? It used to be over the counter. Now you need a prescription to get it, and it works very well. Except the dosing on an adult is completely wrong when they say 100 milligrams twice a day. You're not going to get better taking that. I proved that with a 2-year-old can take the same dose. So the 2-year-old gets 20 milligrams per kilogram, and the adult gets 2 milligrams per kilogram. Doesn't sound like the adult's going to get better, but his kid's not itching his butt anymore.
So you haven't tried that medication then, I'm assuming.
Mebendazole, can't get it. I'm not going to pay $864 for it. There's no way.
Yeah.
My prescription coverage is maxed out at $10,000. $10,000 in parasitic medicines is about a month's supply. But people that need to get something right away, Fenbendazole is actually the replacement in vet world for mebendazole. It's got a longer half-life, and it's more broad spectrum. And it's safer. There's never been a hepatotoxicity report ever in a dog with Fenbendazole, but there have been in mebendazole.
Talking a little bit earlier with JoJo about how when you're doing treatment for mites, you need to also branch out and treat other forms of parasites like fungi because of the coexistence and the ability of them to feed off of each other.
But, from my understanding, though, this ivermectin is supposed to not just, paralyze the mites, but also certain type of worms, nematodes, right? So even if I'm taking the same medication that's for the nematodes, it should, one would assume be working, but fortunately in my case, I'm good the first day when I'm on ivermectin, and the second day, all is quiet. Around the third day, bam, so it happens all over again. So,
You've heard about resistance, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, some vets believe in resistance, some don't. My mom's a farm vet, and what she basically told my doctor and told me, and the reason why I needed to have a bendazole and ivermectin at the same time was the fact that some worms live in your tissue and some worms live in your blood at different stages. And what you do is if you use one medicine, it's just going to chase into the other part of your body. You know, you'll kill some of them, but some of them are going to go ahead. But if you use both at the same time and coordinating weeks, what happens is there's no place for them to hide, and you get rid of them. And then with some nematodes like strongyloids and trichinella, they have an encysted state that they can go in where they can last for years in this little encysted state, and they do that in your muscle or your tissue. So in that encysted state, they live underneath your skin, and so when they emerge, it probably feels like a bug crawling on you. I had so many encysted ones, you can see them in my skin. You know, like I said, I was like my doctor wanted to do a case report on me. You know, but, between him and me, there's no way we could have done that because he basically knew I was taking medicines that would only cure me and didn't disagree with it because I wasn't getting better just taking albendazole and ivermectin, doing it the doctor's CDC way. And I took a ton of albendazole, and it really didn't do nothing except make me lose a lot of hair. You know, I mean, I literally lost half the hair on my body with albendazole, and it was really hurting with my liver enzymes in my test. But when I went to Fenbendazole, in 3 months I was just about better with all my skin rashes, and my liver enzymes were back to normal. Albendazole is really a tough drug on your body. It gave me the worst headaches I ever had in my life.
All right, but you were combining the Fenben and ivermectin together at the same time?
No, sir. Each week you do a different one. Like 1 week you would do ivermectin, and 1 week you would do albendazole. But that really didn't do anything for me. The ivermectin kind of kept it at bay a little bit. You know, ivermectin was the only drug that really kept making me feel better, but I had to keep taking it. And I literally took ivermectin 3 days on and 1 day off for a year. But when I started taking the Fenbendazole 6 months later, because my mom was just fed up with me not getting better and says, you know, these things are going to take you out if you don't do something different. And I don't care what your doctor says, we're going to put you on Fenbendazole. I did, and it was like literally a miracle drug for me. And it also kills protozoa, fungi, and the worms at different stages. Fenbendazole kills the worms in your tissue, or the bendazoles kill them in your tissue. The ivermectins and the moxidectins kill them in your blood. And this is the reason why some vets like using both drugs in conjunction with each other, and also an antibiotic because you want to kill the bacteria that the worms thrive on and farm on. And actually, they need the bacteria to breed and lay eggs. Without that bacteria, they cannot reproduce. And believe it or not, strongyloids, everyone in your body is a female, and she's actually born pregnant and born ready to breed. It's a very resilient worm, and the only resistance that you ever read about is in strongyloids, and there's a lot of farm vets, specifically horse vets, because horse racing spent a fortune trying to kill these things. Well, these great vets that usually need trial and error found out that the bendazoles and the ivermectins, when combined in a month, and only 2 of them can kill the strongyloids, have been proven, is the fenbendazole and moxidectin. Ivermectin only kills the adults in a few L4s and L5s. Now, you guys do know there's like 6 stages of the worm, right? From an egg to L1 to L2.
I thought there was 5.
Well, it's an egg to L1 to L2 to L3, but in L3 they can also go to E3, which is an encysted 3, and then they got an EL3, which is an encysted late 3, which means it's an encysted that's going to wake up when there's not enough females in there. Then you got an L4 and L5, and then an adult. So there are multiple stages. Ivermectin only kills the adults and a couple of L5s, so you have to wait for all of those babies to grow up and all of the encysted to come out. And that can take years for you to get better.
Years.
In the meantime, they can hide in your tissue because ivermectin doesn't affect them in your tissue. All the babies, the encysted, some of the encysted ones, and the ones that are just waking up.
So a couple of questions. First of all, how can somebody get this? And the second question is, after taking all the ivermectin, you said you did it for about a year with the Fenben. Did it have any ill effects on your health?
No, I'm all better. my test, every time I got better, the more worms I got rid of, the better my tests were with my blood. I literally took blood tests once a week. I went to the doctor 3 times a week in the first 3 months because I needed IVs because I had anemia. So I literally sat in his office for 3 hours getting a bag of vitamins and minerals. Otherwise, I would have died because my body wasn't absorbing anything. I had jaundice for almost 3 months.
That's what we were talking about, JoJo, earlier today. You and I were talking about IV. Could you talk about some of the IVs that you got that you found were beneficial, or do you think that's
my doctor ordered IVs for burn victims because my skin rashes were unbelievable, and I literally looked like I had MRSAs.
Yeah.
And I had open sores with pus oozing out that was crusting up all the time. If you've seen that strongyloid picture of the guy's stomach, that was a good part of my body.
What about for people like my case, for instance? I don't have no sores, no rashes on my body, but these things just pop out the pores of my skin and just start crawling and walking around, and they bite me.
Well, you've taken a lot of ivermectin and moxidectin, so those are just still the infested ones that keep cycling out. It takes 30 months to 36 months to get rid of them all. But if you have some living in your tissue, you can still get babies born, and it's called an internal autoinfection where you won't even feel that one. It's basically when the females lay eggs in your intestines, the eggs hatch in your intestines, and then they go ahead and make that process inside you. And then they have to crawl to your skin to make that L3, what they call the infective stage larvae, because they need your hair, which is your keratins, and they also need your cellulose to molt. Well, a lot of people that find Morgellons fibers, it's keratin and cellulose. Well, keratin is your hair, and that's your cellulose. And those little balls right there, I got plenty of pictures of them. It looks just like Morgellons, but it's actually strongyloids. And a lot of people that I helped with Morgellons actually tried to prove me wrong and went to the doctor and got an ELISA test, and they found out they had strongyloids. Or trichinella. Trichinella does the same thing as strongyloids with the encysted in your skin. And you get a lot of muscle pain and a lot of crawling because the encysted ones crawl up in a little ball.
Eating wild game or touching
wild game, but don't forget a lot of our meats come from South America and stuff, and
trichinella is from the worm trichinosis, which is is a type of parasite that insists inside of the muscle meat. And trichinella. Trichinosis.
So the Fenbendazole, when you were taking the ivermectin, in other words, so you have no heart issues, it didn't do anything, there was no, it didn't affect your other parts of your body health-wise later on in the future after taking all these heavy doses of ivermectin and all that?
Nope. The CDC now states that if you have serious strongyloidiasis or a hyperinfection after steroids, I was on prednisone for 2 years for ulcerative colitis and other problems with my skin because my skin doctor was giving it to me for all the rashes, and my butthole doctor would give me the prednisone for my ulcerative colitis. Plus, I went to a tropical disease doctor which found a protozoa in one of my skin biopsies. And it was called an unknown trophozoite, which a trophozoite is just a different stage of a protozoa.
Right.
And when I had check this out. When I had my weekly blood test, I actually found larvae in my blood.
Really?
Almost every time. People that have river blindness, which is a filaria worm, can have up to 30,000 worms per milliliter of worms in their blood. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's when they get elephantitis and stuff. I had inflammation in my feet. I couldn't put shoes on. I had to wear those little Croc shoes.
Really?
Like slippers and stuff. Yep. I couldn't get my regular shoes on. My feet were so swollen from the things running down to my feet.
What type of blood test did they run on you in order to find the larvae? Was this a regular blood test and it just came up?
I was just getting ready. Well, my doctor was getting CBC blood tests because he was worried about my liver enzymes because that's what my mom said. She says, I want blood tests on you every week. And she literally read the reports and told the doctor we need to get him off this shit albendazole and put him on Fenbendazole. My doctor said, well, give him a couple more months. And my mom said, I ain't giving you no more than 6.
Wow.
And that's when I switched. And then after a year of ivermectin, my mom said, no more ivermectin. We'll put you on Moxie because I was just about better. And Moxie targets the rest of the encysted ones. And when I took the Moxie, I slept a lot. That's the side effect from Moxie is I get tiredness. After about 2 or 3 months of the Moxie, I didn't get tired from it anymore. And then my health came back, and I went back to work. I was literally bedridden for 6 months.
I took moxidectin for like 6 months, and it messed me up. I went to emergency several times under observation because it started messing up my nerves. I mean, I've been working out for many years. It's to the point now where when I was on moxidectin, I wasn't able to work out because after a couple sets, I collapsed, and I was pretty much paralyzed. I couldn't move.
That's because it's killing the infection inside you, and then with the worms that are dying in you, your body's got to get rid of those biotoxins. You know.
So it was biotoxins, so I didn't have any.
I would assume so. And people that drink alcohol are known to get major headaches from, that tell them don't drink alcohol. And people that drink alcohol with either the mectin or the moxidectin, one that would either a bad headache or, and they said, I'll never drink again taking this stuff.
But isn't it that moxidectin affects the nerves and the nervous system?
Nope, it kills the things in your nervous system. It kills the things in your nervous system.
When I was taking the moxidectin, I felt as if it was affecting my nervous system. So that
it affected mine too, and it's what I would call die off in your nervous system. If you don't think parasites go in your CNS, central nervous system, you need to read some more articles on that, especially with Lyme disease. And Lyme disease is usually carried by the worms, so they like to hide from you. Hide from the medicines. I'm sure they can smell the medicines with the chemicals, but when they can't hide from them, and when they run out of bacteria to feed on, they'll have to eat on you, and then when they eat on you, they eat on the medicine. And what's great about some of these medicines is that the worms have to run to your skin because they don't want to be in your body no more. So they'll die in your skin instead of dying in your organs.
Right. You know what? When I took the Moxidectin, as soon as I swallowed that Moxidectin, within probably the first couple minutes, these things came out by the swarms out of my body and were just crawling all over the place. So these things knew that I had ingested something, and they didn't like it.
Exactly.
And it was crazy. And I even noticed that with ivermectin, but when I had done it with Moxidectin, it brought them out by the swarms.
Well,
For real, dude. When I took Moxidectin, I got crawling like crazy, and then the only thing that stopped it was ivermectin.
This is why I keep trying to say that, I believe that you guys had mites or may still have mites, but the mites is the vector that brings all the other stuff inside you. Mites are worse than ticks because you get more of them, and they carry more diseases than ticks. And I believe that's why the CDC is fast-tracking Moxidectin for mite infections and scabies.
They've been having case studies on Moxidectin since back 2009, 2010. Why have they not released it to the public then?
They have to test some of these drugs for 5 to 10 years, and they also have to test them with other drugs to make sure there's not interactions, and they also have to test them with alcohol because a lot of people like to drink. But why can't they let people test some of these drugs on themselves when they have no choice? That's the part that I don't understand. Some people are willing to be human guinea pigs, and I would love to be a human guinea pig if I know this medicine might cure me one day. But you're not even allowed to do that.
But unfortunately, the majority of us, we have no choice but to self-medicate. Do you know what I mean? I can't. I mean, I was talking to Sheila yesterday. I can't do the 3 days on, 1 days off with ivermectin because it'll kill me. The ivermectin is too much for my body. Maybe
you can do it one. See, there's different alternatives with that protocol, like with the week on and the week off. Like when you do Fenbendazole, you'd have to do that for 5 days at the 10 milligram per kilogram. Otherwise, that's what they call the larvicidal dose, which is the non-resistant dose, and it's the Strongyl dose. Okay, with ivermectin, there's many ways to pulse ivermectin. You can do it 1 day on, 1 day off for that whole week that you're on the break from Fenbendazole. You can do it 1 day on and 2 days off. 3 days on and 1 day off. It all depends on how your body tolerates ivermectin.
I know exactly.
Tonight, on part 2 of the Human Parasite Support Network.
This is a man-made, bioengineered. It's been released into the air, and you've all ingested it. One way or the other, it's come down on you from the air. You've eaten it, you've drank it, it's gotten into your DNA. It mimics parasites, it mimics insects, it uses your DNA, it grows within your body. It does not want to leave your body. When it leaves your body, it dies. It cannot live without you. You can keep killing it, but it will still be in your DNA.